Back in the day, I owned ROTEL's RA972 integrated amplifier, and I used it with my beloved Paradigm Monitor 7 tower speakers, a Technics turntable, and an NAD CD player. But my college days are long behind me, and the 972 is gone with it, but the update to ROTEL's A11 has been a little bit of a walk down memory lane. Let's start with the basics. The A11 Mark II is a Class AB integrated amplifier that produces 50 watts per channel into 8 ohms, with power increasing all the way up to 62 watts in 4. And I know it's not a barn burner by any means, but it has enough real-world power for most of you, even Carl. The Mark II ditches the cheap LCD display for a more timeless and refined look, really leaning into its past heritage for a more minimal design, replacing that screen with a center-mounted volume control. Despite the ROTEL's more modest appearance and price, the new A11 Mark II has darn near everything one really needs for a 2-channel setup. Just add speakers and maybe a record player, or if convenience is your thing, a streamer. On the unit, you're going to find a headphone jack, tone controls, and input selection buttons, one for each of the amp's 7 inputs. The A11 has 3 analog inputs as well as a built-in moving magnet phono preamp. Now, on the digital side, you get a single coaxial and optical input and built-in Bluetooth that supports aptX HD and AAC. The A11's digital inputs feed into a built-in Texas Instruments digital to analog converter, or DAC. Sadly, though, ROTEL didn't think to add HDMI to their new integrated, which is an omission I just don't get. Also, MIA is a subwoofer out. I know, I can hear half the audience already leaving. Thanks, ROTEL. While the ROTEL has some wireless connectivity in the form of Bluetooth, it is not a smart hi-fi product, so there's no app or assistant support. Instead, you get a pretty basic remote that is 100% functional. I mean, it gets the job done, but it definitely looks like ROTEL uses the same mold for all of their remotes. We've had the Mark II for months, which has let us test it with a lot of different speakers and some other gear. Starting with my favorite speaker pairings, the A11 is a great match for our Sonus Fabre Lumina 2s, Q Acoustic Concept 50s, Klipsch Cornwall 4s, and the new SVS Titan towers we reviewed last week. You're gonna wanna skip pairing the ROTEL with the Bowers & Wilkins 705 S3 signatures and the Kev R11 Metas, because it really seemed to struggle to power those two speakers. On the B&Ws, the ROTEL sounded thin and two-dimensional, and on the Kefs, it just lacked control and weight, but I don't fault the ROTEL here. Both the B&W and Kef speakers dip to well below 4 ohms, so they have pretty special needs. Everything else, I have no concerns recommending these pairings. As for the rest of our testing, I relied on my Eversolo A8 as a DAC streamer, Audio-Technica's LP140 XP fitted with our Ortofon 2M Black LVB cart, and our Apple TV 4K running through the 98-inch Sony X90L TV. All of these worked really well together with the ROTEL, and it was incredibly easy to connect and get up and running quickly. After testing a number of Class D amps this year, an amp like the A11 Mark II is a refreshing change of pace. I always appreciate returning to good old Class AB, even a modest one like the ROTEL. While the Class D may give listeners the sensation of greater clarity and detail, ROTEL's Class AB amplification is definitely not what I would call vague. The A11 manages to be as detailed as Class D while also being more balanced throughout its response without becoming treble forward or fatiguing, regardless if you're listening to its analog or digital inputs. Actually, I have to admit, I was really impressed by the ROTEL's consistency of sound regardless of the input being called into service. The ROTEL's sound or tone is neutral. I certainly would not call the A11 Mark II lean or bright, nor would I say that it has a warm or lush sound. The A11 has excellent articulation, speed, and control in the bass. Knowing what you're getting and managing your expectations is always important. So if you are on the market for a new amplifier and you have speakers with varying or low impedances that you need to drive properly at high volumes without the possibility of distortion, strain, or damage, you should be looking at beefier amps like the ROTEL 1592 Mark II, which is still one of my absolute favorites. But within its wheelhouse, the A11's power delivery was completely linear, clean, and always controlled at low and high volumes. In fact, when pushed to what I would consider the absolute ragged edge of my volume tolerance through even large speakers like the SVS Titans, I didn't feel like the ROTEL was working all that hard. But taking it all back down to a reasonable volume, you may even call it low-level listening. I was even more impressed by how detailed and engaging this amp was at background levels. The A11 Mark II is a solid, honest amplifier. It does what it should and at a high enough level that unless you really want to chase the audiophile dragon, and I mean reach deep into those pockets, it's actually probably a great amp to start and stop your journey with. Now, as far as features go, the A11 is limited compared to a lot of integrateds right now, trying to wow you with all of their tech. ROTEL has clearly chosen to focus on sound quality rather than features. Still, ROTEL has done a good job getting the features this A11 does have just right. The included DAC may not be today's flavor of the month, but compared to one of my reference DACs, the Eversolo Z8, I'm not sure I could pick it every single time in a blind head-to-head. Depending on the source material, the ROTEL may even produce the sensation of a touch more weight in the low mid-range and mid-bass. You definitely get better separation and detail retrieval with the Eversolo A8 though, but considering that the A8 costs $1,000 more than the A11 Mark II, you better. So for those of you who want to limit your associated equipment, I would say give the A11's DAC a shot before you spend more on anything separate. And I feel the same about the A11's built-in PHONO preamp. I mean, compared to my aging Emotiva PHONO pre or even the standalone pre from U-Turn, the ROTEL's included PHONO preamp is every bit as good. It has been a great match for my favorite Ortophon PHONO cartridges. The preamp itself has terrific clarity and detail, but it retains all of vinyl's natural warmth and roundness. It's resolving enough, though, that you will hear the difference when you swap between, say, an Ortophon blue and black cartridge, which is impressive, given that this is a more affordable integrated. So where can the ROTEL be improved? I mean, aside from its lack of HDMI and its missing sub out, the only thing that annoys me is that the A11 signal sense feature doesn't always work. Over the course of several months, the auto standby function has been absolutely flawless, but the signal sensing power-up, total crapshoot. Makes no sense to me. Maybe it's a bug with my unit and yours will be fine. I don't know. Speaking of spotty performance, I programmed my Apple TV remote to control the ROTEL, which worked great for like a week. Then it just stopped, forcing me to use the ROTEL remote for volume, input selection, you know, whatever. It sucks because I hate having to rock multiple remotes. This is just one more instance where HDMI, it would have come in so clutch here. If you are concerned at all about amplifier noise, the A11 Mark II is sadly not church mouse silent. There is a faint but audible hiss from some speakers when at idle. It's more noticeable through the corn walls, but I also notice the noise on the SVS Titans. This is something I can live with because I wouldn't be using the ROTEL in a near-field listening environment, least of all with higher sensitivity speakers. But if this sounds like your setup, you should probably look elsewhere for an amp. When it comes to cross-shopping similar integrateds, you might want to consider Yamaha's S801. Like the ROTEL, the 801 has a similar well-built minimal design. It has a built-in DAC, a headphone jack, and a moving magnet phono input. For the extra $100, you get a more powerful amp with 100 watts per channel. The Yamaha also uses ESS Sabre ES9010 K2M DACs, which is bound to please some of you. It has 6 RCA audio inputs, a Type B USB 2.0 input for playing high-res music files, and drum roll, it even has a subwoofer out. Now, if the ROTEL isn't in the budget and you're looking to save some money, but you don't want a Class D amp, I would look at NAD's C316 BEE V2 or the Cambridge Audio AXA35 over anything from Fosse, SMSL, IEMA, WIMP, you get the idea. The NAD, in my opinion, is an absolute steal at its current $399 sale price. It may only have 40 watts of power, but it's stable at 4 ohms and has a built-in phono stage. Now I get it may not be as sexy as many of the bargain Class D amps are at the moment, but like the ROTEL, you can take the NAD's power rating and subsequent performance to the bank. I get that it doesn't have a lot of extras, but those extras can drive the total cost of ownership up fast, and in some cases, take you well north of the ROTEL's sub $800 asking price, further solidifying in my opinion, the ROTEL's overall value. Compared to an old favorite, AUDIOLAB 6000A, the ROTEL sounds more focused and controlled. I suppose in a head-to-head, one might construe what I just said into believing the AUDIOLAB is warmer by comparison, but I really think this argument comes down to control over a speaker's woofers, which, at least with our speakers, it just sounded more confident and quicker through the ROTEL. While the AUDIOLAB could sound fuller at times, I prefer the ROTEL's greater precision. Additionally, the ROTEL sounds ever so slightly more extended up top compared to the AUDIOLAB, at least to me, though my in-room measurements don't exactly back me up here. Regardless, both are great amps. You get a little bit more flexibility though in the form of preamp outs and a strict preamp mode with the AUDIOLAB, making, it easier to expand upon down the road if you want to do that sort of thing. Turning to Cambridge Audio's AXR 100 for my next comparison, the Cambridge is more powerful and offers a few more features than the ROTEL. Similar to the experience I had with the AUDIOLAB 6000A, head-to-head, the ROTEL feels more confident and resolute. The Cambridge sound has more in common with the AUDIOLAB than with the ROTEL, so knowing your taste is really going to help make your decision easier. Understanding that this discussion isn't about sound coloration, but is about control and how firm a grip the amplifier section has on a speaker. Out of the three, I would pick the ROTEL for this reason and this reason alone, because I find its precision addictive, especially considering its more obtainable price. If you're willing to go upmarket with your budget, take a look at another Yamaha like the RN1000A for outright improvements in sound quality, use, adjustability, and features. The 1000A is double the price of the A11 Mark II here, but I consider the investment 100% worth it. Of course, if you're not a fan of integrated everything and prefer a more separates approach, don't get the 1000A or any feature-packed integrated. Save your money and build your system around a simpler amp like the ROTEL. But keeping things all in the family, if you already own the A11 Tribute, I don't believe there's going to be a demonstrable difference in sonic performance, but I am going off of memory. Stylistically, I prefer the look of the Mark II, but boy, oh boy, do I wish the Mark II had the Tribute's A/B speaker selection and its preamp outs. That said, ROTEL has added a DAC to the Mark II. If you're trying to decide between the old and the new, it may come down to a coin flip or whether or not you already own a DAC. Regardless though, the A11 Mark II, like all similar ROTEL integrated amps that have come before it, remains an absolute killer value for any hi-fi enthusiast. So that's it for me and what I think of ROTEL's fabulous A11 Mark II integrated amplifier. What did you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below, and if you have a more specific question, apart from just wanting to know what Christy thinks, leave that question for us because it could make an appearance in Friday's Unplugged episode. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Christy's left for you down below, that's a great way that you've always shown your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us, thank you very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you Friday for our follow-up discussion on Unplugged. Take care, guys.